So without further ado, tell me a bit about you, your business, and yeah, what it is that you do.
Well, I've got a group of businesses. My first company, though, was called Camp Leaders. I
Yeah.
don't know whether you or anyone who might stumble across this video has ever heard of Camp America.
I've heard of Camp America. I think I had a couple of friends who did that actually.
Yeah, so back in '99, as a 25-year-old, 26-year-old, I decided, having done Camp America myself, that I would start a rival company off. That was my first business. In the first year, I sent 2 people across, which wasn't much in ways of business, but I learned a lot. And then 32 the following year, and in 2019 we sent 11,500. And we've got offices in 16 countries. We did have pre-pandemic over 200 staff, and it became a really good business, and that grew into a number of other companies, but that was the first. And just because I loved doing camp myself in America.
I mean, it's awesome. I mean, like the experiences that I've had from my friends, it's incredible, life-changing, you know, to inspire them to continue to travel on around the world, not just in America. So yeah, you said you were inspired by your own love of camping then, and you just wanted to share that experience.
Well, it's not really camping. It's, I mean, because I'm such a, I'm the only, I would not want to spend a single night in a tent. I can't stand the things. I used to sleep in the car when I was young because I wouldn't be. But the Camp America, it's like a huge tradition in America where kids aged normally between 7 and 18, I suppose, go and learn different types of activities. They might sail, play tennis, football, anything really. And it's some of them are away for 6 to 8 weeks from their parents. So it's a big tradition over there, and it's not something that we have anything really particularly similar to in this country. And I did it just as something to do for a summer when I was at university, and just loved it. It was so much fun. I met people from all over the world, made good American friends, particularly had a couple of girlfriends, which was unusual for me as a 20-year-old. And just loved the whole experience. And I always knew I was going to start a business. It was always my ambition from, well, probably 14, 15, 16 onwards. I thought that might be something I'd do. And really, I thought, well, what better place to start than something that you have a real passion for? And if you're passionate for something, you immediately become a good salesperson, because everybody can feel your authenticity in your salesmanship. So it was really just because I loved it, and I wanted other people to have the same experience as I'd had. Also, because I was young, I was pretty arrogant. So I thought, oh, I could do this better than the other companies that do it. And actually, that's really quite a helpful attitude to go into something thinking that you can do better. And I had lots of luck, and a really good co-founder who coached me in lots of ways. And yeah, so it was a nice, easy first business. I mean, it wasn't easy at all, but it was a nice place to start because I loved every moment of it.
Wow, amazing. And I mean, yeah, I mean, that was going to be my next question actually. Was there anybody who inspired you that you said that your co-founder was able to mentor you a bit? Well,
there's two quick answers to that question. The first one is, I mentioned my co-founder. So Dave was my swimming coach. So had been coaching me. He's a little bit older than me, but he was coaching me from probably 11, 12 onwards. And I approached him. He was the person that went to camp. He went to camp in '86, to a camp in New York. And I thought, oh, that sounds brilliant. So in that sense, he inspired me to do the experience myself. And when I got back out, having done it for a few summers, I went to Dave and told him what I was planning in terms of a business. And he loved the idea so much that he jumped on board straight away. And he was the only person I knew with a credit card at that point, so that was helpful for buying some things. And he was just my coach. So even though he wasn't in the business on a day-to-day at that point, everything that I did, he kind of helped tweak me. So coaching was very important. So he was a great business partner to start with, and has become increasingly good as a business partner. So again, someone you trust is a prerequisite for a business partner, I would think. And the second person that inspired me, and this is a longer story, but I'll keep it really short, was a school teacher who I was in the, sorry for the darkness for this for a second, but I was in the Hillsborough disaster when I was 16 in the Leppings Lane bit. And I went off the rails a little bit. And one of my teachers, my English teacher, Mary Wilson, she grabbed me by the scruff of the neck, because before then I was a pretty good kid in a terrible school, Halewood Comp, as it was then. And she really aggressively went after me one day, and she was the first person who told me some truths about wasting my time and how I had a responsibility for living a good life, because ultimately there was 97 people who weren't as lucky as me to get through it. And she wrote me a life plan, and the life plan was travel the world. I'll go to university, travel the world. To put my life into context, I thought I wasn't particularly lucky. Liverpool in the 80s was quite a tough place in lots of ways. But put your life into context. You live in a rich country, you're relatively close to opportunity, and then start a business afterwards. And I followed the life plan pretty much. I mean, there was other bits to it, but that bit, when I got back from traveling, it was her who put the seed of entrepreneurship into my brain. And she completely changed my life, really, in that sense. And there's lots more to that story. But I saw her in 2014, I tried to find her after, at that point, more than 20 years, having not seen her for 20 years, and told her how much she changed my life. And that was a pretty amazing.
You did find her?
I did find her, and in fact, at that point of my career, I'd started a charity called World Merit. That went really well and quite big at that point, and worked directly with the United Nations. And I had a huge event in the Echo Arena, as it was Liverpool Arena, and we had thousands of people coming to watch lots of speeches. So we had Malala. I don't know whether you know Malala.
Yeah, of course.
One of the speakers, and lots of other really well-known speakers. And so I'm on there and thought, I need to bring Mary Wilson to this to see what she inspired. And I got her up on stage, and we gave her an award, and I thanked her and told the story.
Wow.
So pretty amazing, really. She was a bit annoyed that I embarrassed her in front of 3,000 people, but it was fun.
Oh wow, that sounds lovely. That's amazing. And that's actually one of the most perfect answers to that question, because obviously we get various answers, parents, friends, but to actually have a person, especially a teacher as well, to kind of imprint so deeply on a young person. It's amazing, because I actually had a similar experience with my year 9 science teacher as well. And it's just when you're at that age, and especially after what happened to you, the Hillsborough, it was that's awesome. So
well, she gave me just as an add-on, I've told the Mary Wilson story probably 1,000 times in 1,000 different places, but the plan that we wrote out had a 10,000 day. This is where I want to be after 1,000 days, where I want to be after 10,000 days.
There was a time limit.
It was just all the way through, and I had to retire when I was 40 to become an author, because that was my bigger ambition, which is something that I'm trying. But it was that 10,000 days in, I gave a speech in the UN exactly on day 10,000. I organized that whole 16-day conference in New York with kids from all over. When I say kids, 20-year-olds from all over the planet. And the day in the UN was the day of the 10,000th anniversary of Hillsborough. So it was I'd planned it all just to talk about Mary Wilson on that day, really. So, yeah, pretty amazing that she changed my life.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely sounds it. So how did that Camp America ambition turn out to the other businesses? How did that roll into the other two?
Well, just perfectly normal business sense, I think, from there. You know, if you have 5,000, let's say that in 2005, 2006, we probably had, let's say, maybe 5,000 jobs available for young people in America. But if you're getting 15,000 people apply for 5,000 jobs, you don't want to just turn away 10,000 people. So basically at that point, we started a second brand, which ended up being the name of our group, called Smaller Earth. And Smaller Earth was to send people to China, to India, to wherever else we could get incredible experiences. So that became the second company, just because we had the surplus of young people.
Wow.
So, you know, those brands still, Smaller Earth did well. And then it grew into, you know, a whole group of companies from there under the same model. The only outlier, I suppose, we have a tech company called Clever Steam, but that was built just because we were spending so much money on our own tech that we thought, well, why don't we own this in-house and then sell all the IP that we develop to our competitors, which we do. So we ended up, you know, making another business out of that, and that's done quite well as well, called Clever Steam.
Wow, amazing. So there's a group of like what, five businesses now?
Yeah, all under the umbrella. Yeah, probably 5 different brands in that sense, and doing slightly different things. And we're about to launch, well, maybe not under Smaller Earth Group, but maybe they'll own part of it, depending whether we want to. I've got different investors that I might work with this time around, but Dave is quite keen to go along with our new launch, which is called Unique Weeks, which we're hoping to launch in September, which is quite different really in terms of providing access to incredible holiday homes for anyone, and providing a staffing service at those holiday homes, so that if people don't want to really self-cater at somewhere, we'll provide a summer staff member on site so that they will cater and maybe do a bit of childcare, etc., etc. So all the people that we send to America, we'll offer that job to them as well. You know, do you want to go to France for the summer, or Tenerife, or, you know, Mexico or Costa Rica, wherever we have properties, we're gonna layer in another service and sell it to holidaymakers. Really, and there's a big boom in holiday home rental, and we just want to jump on the holiday home rental bandwagon, but also add a layer of services in that nobody else does.
Yeah, and also offering experiences, which seems to be a running theme.
Yes,
throughout your companies. Yeah, of course. I mean, amazing. And I mean, obviously, we're very curious to see how different types of businesses handle the pandemic, handle the development over the last couple of years. And basically, what would be your biggest challenges that you've experienced over the last 2 years, would you say?
We got decimated, really. You know, it's a travel business ultimately. We have
exactly.
We had 11,500 people in 2020 with flights booked, etc., heading to America in the summer, and 0 people obviously went. So suddenly we had huge debts in the company. We had to finance our way out of those debts. We had to lay off probably 90% of the staff, which was pretty horrific. And we just were in complete survival mode. So 2020, 2021, we just made sure we survived. And thankfully we did. Not everybody did. And then this year, led by Dave, my business partner, actually much more than me this time round, we have had a profit record. So it's just we've managed to come out the other side, it seems, and that means we can hire some of our staff back. It means we can plan for the future. We've taken advantage of the 2-year pain to develop our technology to another level, and actually we've had offers of being bought out by numerous people at this point, which I think we might consider down the line, but we're just interested in getting our profits back up and growing back pretty quick, which Dave is doing a brilliant job on. So.
That's awesome to hear that. You're definitely good to hear that you're happy with how it's going. And so in terms of the growth, in terms of the experience you've had in the last few years, is there like a massive learning and overall learning that's come out of it for you?
Yes, it might sound a little bit difficult. I wouldn't want everybody to hear this without me being very careful, I suppose, with my words, but we were very comfortable as a company and very nice, I think. We had a big staff team. We had a very expensive office in the Albert Dock. We spent money on numerous things that we were all happy with, no blame associated to anyone, but we had a lot of waste in the company, really. And I think that was probably worth it in lots of ways to have our CEO at the time, Bastian, create what was a brilliant culture. So, everybody was, as happy as you can be in work. And the atmosphere was always good when I went into the office as one of the owners. Bastian did a great job on that. But as soon as we got into trouble, we realized that we'd wasted's harsh, but we'd spent a lot of money on things that we could have streamlined a lot better and had much better reserves. And that's one reason why I think our profits will be much better post-pandemic, is because we were probably spending 2 or 3 million, maybe not that much, but a lot of money per year, more than we needed to. And I think you've got to get a happy balance, and I don't think we had the balance quite right. We were always in profit, so that wasn't a problem to us, and none of us are really that money focused. So we really enjoyed the idea of having a brilliant company for our employees. Always enjoyed that, but then now we've definitely got the attitude of we need to be a little bit more, well, like I said, streamlined, because if something comes at you out of the blue, then it's much more difficult to cope with. And to be honest, the staff that we have now really deserve us to be really quite hard on managing our and building our cash reserves much more aggressively than we ever have before. Because when there's a bump in the road, that wasn't a bump, that was an earthquake in the road. But when bump in the road, you want to have the resources to weather it smoothly, and I just don't think we did that well.
Well, how could have anybody foreseen what was about to happen?
No.
It completely came out of nowhere, and I feel like anybody who has even just survived, especially any business that's just survived just something like this, of this magnitude, has done well. And everybody's in the same place, picking themselves up. And as terrible as it was in so many ways, with people losing loved ones and being separate and everything, I do believe that it gave people a massive opportunity to just kind of have a bit of a mirror put in front of them, for sure, a bit of a magnifying glass, and on many things, businesses, relationships, family, friends, what you want out of your life. And I, for one, definitely felt that in my personal life. I felt like a lot of people around me in business as well, everyone's looking at it from a very different type of perspective, which maybe we needed, in some degree.
Yeah, I think both personally and professionally, it held up a mirror, and I didn't love everything I saw, either about my business or about me, frankly. So it was not that I've always had such a kind view of myself, and a decent sized ego. So it's not that I haven't been successful. So sometimes you can get a bit carried away with that. But it's also, it was quite humbling, and kind of just reinforced what's important, in terms of family, making sure that I maybe stopped taking quite so many big risks with family finances.
Right.
So, I mean, as the entrepreneur, really, I mean, Dave's entrepreneurial too, but is much less risk orientated than me. So I spent fortune on building the charity. Well, that's a great thing to do. It's a lovely thing. The charity is lovely. It does a great job. I'm no longer in charge of it, thank God. But it also cost a fortune. And perhaps I should have paid off my mortgage before I did that. I had another mentor, a guy called Jack Healy, who told me that you shouldn't wait. There are people who need support straight away. So if you've got any money, immediately recycle it. And I kind of believe in that. I am someone who wants to act socially and try and support people. But perhaps I could have waited just a little bit longer and made sure I was completely safe first. But again, Jack told me not to, and I love Jack, so it's kind of no.
Fair enough. I mean, and yeah, that's another thing that I wanted to ask. Do you feel like, how much do you feel like risk plays in success? Is it important to?
Yeah, I think obviously no one ever does well in. Very few people manage to start up a successful business if they're completely cautious and worried. And it's not I'm sure it wouldn't be an enjoyable process if you are the type of person who worries overly about what's going to happen next. I think I am glad I was quite arrogant and maybe naive about the difficulties that I could overcome. I thought I'd be able to get the US Department of State to give me a visa designation or to work with me in some way when I was, a kid in Hale Wood in my boxer shorts, ringing up the Department of State. And I'm thinking that, of course, they're going to let me. And the fact that we managed to navigate things like that is just because we tried. Whereas a lot of people would just shake their head and think, no, that's just never going to happen. Well, if you don't roll the dice, you're never going to know. And I think it's just down to my naivety, really. I'm still quite able to take risks without worry. That's a deficiency in my brain that I'm kind of glad of. And also because I do tend to marry that up with once you've got a track record of a successful business, everything becomes much easier. So you can take a risk and people believe you. So I have had people invest in companies before that they're not really basing it on what I'm talking to them about. They're basing it on me and the past. So then you can get people to invest in you because your confidence is high rather than the business plan. What I've learned from that, though, is you should probably be careful with other people's money too, and make sure your business plan's right as well before you go too fast into something. But again, mostly it works out, and I'm glad I can take risks still, even though I'm 49, going on 50. Yeah.
Well, I mean, amazing. And I'm conscious of time now, but I just want to ask you one more question. What's the best advice that you would give an 18-year-old thinking about starting their own business?
Well, it would be stealing from Mary Wilson's advice. And completely, it would be go and travel the world and understand before you jump into something. Understand yourself, understand different places, different markets. Think big. For sure. Don't think, really, my first business ideas was so small, and and that's okay. That can be a good lifestyle, but if you give yourself a little bit of time and find out what you really love to do and learn, there's no reason not to think big and maybe export as well. Think about doing things on a global scale rather than just Southport or Liverpool or northwest of England. Try and think a little bit bigger if you can. That's all, because it's nice when you can get something to work on a global level. it just makes it, you've got a lot more people to sell to in that way. But yeah, that's my advice. Just think big, and but before you start, go and travel the world a little bit.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Chris. Thank you so much for spending time with me today. I really appreciate it.